these 3 tips, you'll be able to better self-assess for progress with your pen and ink textures and gain the confidence that you're working on the right things from the beginning. We'll look at how to plan and render textures, and at the end, I share a bonus game to keep your textures fun and fearless. Texture refers to a pattern or design that gives the illusion of some kind of surface. They're important with pen and ink, especially working in black and white, because proper textures have the power to explain a subject to a viewer in a more convincing way. You may be wondering, why bother planning textures? Isn't this overcomplicating the process? It depends. It's not something you need to do for every project. It's beneficial, especially to beginners, if you're concerned that your technique lacks variety, you keep using the same patterns. Your subjects look dull, flat, your composition lacks a focal point, like we don't know where to look. These problems could be due to various factors, but you're nearly guaranteed that planning textures will give you answers to what specifically needs more practice. You'll be able to see if the textures in your artwork have improved before and after using this planning process. I have proof. Here's Alphonso Dunn's famed balls exercise for how to shade textured forms. This is my version of his exercise that I did near the end of 2020 when I first started drawing with pen and ink. Here's the same exercise, repeated again just yesterday. You'll find that it's more straightforward to assess your progress by comparing exercises to one another than finished pieces of artwork. There's less emotional attachment to an exercise, and it's not as subjective than art because exercises can be judged under the same criteria. With the balls exercise, I used the exact same subject, dimensions, materials, and time frame, approximately under an hour. I can therefore, with my self-critique, compare apples to apples. Did I achieve a convincing illusion of surface with my textures? I think so, but what jumps out is an improvement in the technique I used to transition tones from a light to dark values. In the 2020 doodle, I darkened the values by hatching lines over top of the textures. In the 2024, I darkened the tone by increasing the density of the marks. There's nothing wrong with adding marks on top of other marks to increase the tone. In fact, that's a rendering style used by many famous artists. Like here, Charles Dana Gibson, he overlaps hatching strokes, except observe how his marks are organized in a value range, which effectively functions to explain the forms. The effect is lively and not messy. The key takeaway here is that you'll be happier with how your artwork turns out if A, you've set a standard or a goal to reach, and B, you plan your practice towards reaching those standards. I'm aiming to develop a similar technique to Wrightson and Booth, whose styles of shading textures are influenced by engraving methods, and nothing like Gibson. You can see in these illustrations that for the most part, tone is controlled by varying the density of the marks, and that's the very specific bar I've set for myself to reach. So if you're aiming for a particular look with your ink application, set that as your standard and we can plan for it. We have a few decisions to make before we can go ahead with the plan, and the most important one is a mark making technique. There's hatching along the form, cross-contour hatching, curve cross-hatching, cross-hatching, stippling, scribbling, and irregular lines. You can create textures using any of these or whatever other strokes you prefer. Depending on the style you're aiming for, you'll be more confident with your ink application if you pre-select the mark-making techniques you'll be using for your artwork. A general rule of thumb is to limit the rendering to 2 to 3 techniques. Some teachers insist on not mix-matching multiple techniques as this can cause a jumbled effect. For example, they'll advise against mixing stippling with lines. You can be the judge of what will work for the art that you want to make, but the objective is to plan ahead, to avoid regretful decisions, and stay in range of your standards during the ink application. Before getting too excited about techniques, we first need to select a subject. I'll be using these thumbnail compositions to demo this process. I use a 5-stage process to create finished artwork. I've already done the research, gathered references, and created these concept thumbnails. We'll therefore sort out our textures at stage 3 of this part of the subject studies. For this, I've gone ahead and created a table to sort textures in categories. You can take a screenshot of this or download the table for free from my website. It's in the blog post related to this video, and you'll find that link and other resources mentioned in the description below. Looking at my thumbnails, let's identify all the potential textures we could create. Actually, I prefer concept A and C, so we'll only look at those two. For the fairy character, we have anatomical features and clothing. For nature, we have botanical varieties, tulips, lilies, leaves, blades of grass. For atmospheric effects, I see a sky, clouds, maybe sun rays. There's also, a bird, a fairy, and potentially a nondescript background pattern, so something abstract. The objective is to evaluate the possibilities, then narrow those options down to a few accent textures. To gain further insight, we'll do a value study to shade the chosen textures. First, decide which mark making techniques you want to use. Think of your standards and the style you're aiming for. For my rendering style, I'll be using hatching, like lines parallel to the forms, contour, cross-contour hatching, lines going across the form. And for accent textures, I'll be testing irregular lines such as broken dashes and dots. The prominent elements of my composition are the flowers, the bird, the fairy, maybe the sky. To shade the hatching textures, I'm creating a gradation scale from light to dark. I darken the tone by gradually increasing its density. You achieve density by bringing the strokes closer together, reducing the space between the marks, and using thicker lines. I'm using dip pens with India ink on bristle paper for these studies because those are the exact tools and materials I'll be using for my finished artwork. If you plan to ink your final project with fine liner pens, then use those to conduct your values tests. You can do a variety of these gradation charts based on the types of textures you'll be using. Realistic subjects are usually three-dimensional, so the second part of the step is to apply our textures to a form. Similarly to Alphonso's balls exercise, the source of light comes from the bottom left-hand side in thumbnail A and top left-hand side in thumbnail C. So I shade both directions on various shapes. If you're keen and want to add a third part to this exercise, you can also grade your textures for portions of your subject. Using another of Alphonso's examples, he shows here how to shade simple to complex forms, demonstrating further by shading part of his subject. For my study, I rendered a feather and a tulip. Before I show you how to play the Fearless Textures game, let's review what we've all accomplished so far. After you've done your research and have a subject, from the thumbnail concept, you identify the key elements that have textures. Based on the rendering standards that you're aiming for, you pick stroke techniques to create those textures. Then you do a value study to shade those textures, first on the flat chart, then on a form, then as a subject sample. The 3 tips were to self-assess for progress by comparing apples to apples. So we established that it's more straightforward to compare exercises judged under the same criteria than to self-critique artwork. Tip 2 is to plan how to reach your standards. So set standards for your self-critique so you can better target your exercise practices and plan for it. Tip 3, test the possibilities by creating samples. You're basically guaranteed your pen and ink projects will turn out the way you want with this level of preparation. What if you don't have a project or are low on ideas for a subject to draw? Well, next is a fun way to keep practicing fearlessly. It's easy to make. From the textures table, write down 1 texture per card or on a piece of paper, throw them in the jar, pick a random texture from the jar, set a timer for 3 to 5 minutes, shade your texture from light to dark. The timer adds pressure. It forces you to just go for it, not overthink or over-render. The clock trains you to be a fearless inker. You can also use this game as drawing prompts. Here, I picked these 3 textures. I set my timer for 12 minutes, and from those 3 texture prompts emerged a subject. The This goofy doodle can later serve as a part of a study for future drawing. You can set the timer for whatever amount of time you want, though aim to reduce the time for each practice session. I hope that you enjoyed this overview of how to plan textures for your pen and ink projects. If you did, give it a thumbs up and remember to visit my blog for additional resources, and I'll see you in the next one.